it's Lisa. The photo I have today was taken obviously in my craft room, which I share with the guest bedroom. There's really almost everything in here is craft storage now, but there is still the bed, which takes up a lot of space. It's not normally this messy, really not normally this messy. The last few weeks, going on months now, have been kind of chaotic around here with a lot of medical things going on. So sometimes I don't get to clean up my craft room like I might normally, and other times I don't get up here as much as I want. This was taken, I think, in March. I had my jelly plate. I'd had it for a few weeks. I played with it. I'd created quite a few prints, but I was doing some more things. I was working on something specific that I wanted to make, and I just happened to look at all of this mess, and I realized that it captured a little bit of what was going on in life right now. It does show something new that I've done, a way to store some stencils and some completed projects, but just a lot of the process of just life right now going on. And so I thought it was a good photo to represent that, and also it shows that my craft room is a bit of a refuge. It's a place where I can leave a big mess and I can just come and go as I want. That's one good thing about having my craft room on the second floor. It's the only room on this floor where nobody else comes, so nobody sees my mess but me. So that can be a really nice thing. And I thought for the page I would work with the jelly prints, some of those pages. I have a whole drawer full of them now, and I go through them periodically and I pull out some. Like last night I needed to make a card, so I pulled this one out and I cut part of it for a card, and I have some of that left. And I just picked out some that I thought went with the photo and really appealed to me as I was going through them. I don't have a good vision for what I want to put on the page, but just I know I want to use some of those prints. So I'm going to start flipping through them and seeing again this morning which ones appeal to me. This is one of my favorite prints I've ever made. I just love it. I created this background myself actually on the as a stencil on the silhouette with just a bunch of squares, and then it's really a simple one, but it's always been one of my favorites. So I could do like that by itself and then you really not have to do a whole lot else with it, but I could also do things where I cut up some of the designs. So we'll just flip through first of all and look at all of what's in here. I have some on tissue paper. This is something I created before I got the jelly plate. I was just playing with some different techniques and things, so it's just paint on book paper. This is some of that where you roll off the extra paint and sort of push off some of my stencils and things. I think this was part of one of the videos that I had, and I love the colors on that. It's one of the early ones I did where my brayer wasn't working really well, but I still like the colors. It'd be good to punch or work with. This was also in a video recently where I was trying to show trees, but this little section right here I think would be nice cut out by itself. This is one of my favorite prints, also using a stencil I got from Hobby Lobby in their regular stencil area. I like things like this where it just got, you know, a mixture of a couple of different stencils. And then this was an early print where I mixed a whole bunch of things together. So these were just ones that appealed to me, so I had to decide which ones that I like to work with and what I'm going to do with the page. As I said, I could do kind of a single print, trim that down and do that as a single print. Let's get all this stuff out of the way so it's not cluttering the view. Oh, I know something I need to get. Something that helps me plan a page is a piece of white cardstock, or in this case it's chipboard. It's left over from the Stampin' Up paper pack, but it's 12 by 12. That's the important thing. So I can take this and kind of lay it down and see what I might want to do. I like this, but you know, this gives me almost an office kind of feel to it. I see the office chair and I see these squares and I see more order and structure. That's not what the page is about. It's not about order and structure. So as much as I like that one, I don't think it's really quite the right thing. I'm wondering more about, okay, this is a very chaotic print. And I'm wondering more about just punching out or die cutting or even just cutting in squares some of these oddball pieces. I also like that. that also shows the chaos. I haven't done a lot with the tissue paper pieces. I really kind of like that. Yeah, I like that. I like the colors of this, because even though it's chaotic, there's a serenity to those colors. And this was apparently made, this was like a second print from something like this, where I was using the same papers and colors, so I might be able to work with those two together. So kind of like this too, because that really shows the chaos and all that's going on. I would not have expected this to be the one, but I'm liking it more and more. I matted my photo on that. My photo doesn't need matting. I need to cut that purple off. I don't like the purple there. I'm thinking about maybe adding this to a page. And I wonder if I punched some of these out in some shapes to go around there. So I'm beginning to get some ideas. I could put the title up here, or the journaling maybe there, and the title down here. So it's kind of starting to come together in my head, but definitely did not have this idea in mind. So I've switched to a regular piece of white cardstock, and I want to take an idea from that one page that I was playing with. I'm not going to actually use that page on this one, but I like those circle designs, and what those were made with are just some common elements. I have a roll that's left from glue dots. That's that one that's stained there with blue paint, and we're going to use some gold. And I also have a little roller that came out of a Scotch tape dispenser. And I like it because it has two circles on it. So I'm just dipping those in paint and pressing them onto my white cardstock. And I started this with a gold, and I realized it wasn't dark enough, so I went and got some brown paint and added to it. And those happen to be the Liquitex more artist acrylic paints, but it can be any kind of paint. All right, and we'll let that dry. And while I had that paint left over, I thought I would go ahead and just use some extra on a scrap piece of paper. This was one of my jelly prints that I hadn't picked for this layout, but just thought the browns would look good with it. So it's kind of how I used some of the leftover paint. Now I tore off that little purple corner that didn't match anything. And looking at maybe matting the photo, that makes it too structured. And started playing with arranging stuff. For the title, I'm going to do the title Calming Chaos. And I want calming to be all in one group of letters. And then chaos I thought would be a fun one to do out of a bunch of different letters. And they'll let me use up some of these packs that don't have very many letters left in them to make whole words. If you looked at that title, you might think that the whole idea was that I was trying to organize my space and calm the chaos. But it's really about how calming this messy craft room is in my life right now, is that I can go up there and make a mess, and I don't have to worry about anything, do as much or as little as I feel like, and it's really just kind of an escape. So got a few letters here, just trying to figure out the best place to put them. And I went back to kind of my original way of turning things. And I'm looking for some papers to punch. I'm starting with the largest circle punch I have, the 1.5, and I also have my Creative Memories cutters. Just kind of seeing if I'm going to like some punched circles. My idea when I started thinking about punched elements is that I would make maybe a border with them or scatter them around, but so far they're not doing a whole lot for me. I'm going to go ahead and glue this down. I'm pretty sure I know where I want my paper to go. I'm just using a little bit of adhesive in different places. I thought I might sew around it, but I didn't end up doing that. There's going to be things there to anchor it as we go along. Back to these circles. And I went off to get some wood pieces. A friend of mine sent me a bunch of wood pieces, and just a wonderful, generous thing that she did. And there's all kinds of other ones that I don't have out here, but I thought I might like to use a few of those, and I kind of like those long ones there. And somewhere along the way I hit on the idea of putting the circles inside of the stamped ones and kind of doing a three, an arrangement where we have three groupings. But I feel like I need some larger circles. I'm speeding things up here because what I'm going to do is take my Creative Memories cutters, and I'm trying some different things, and that's just too big. It's too overpowering. So I decided to do one circle inside of another, and the best way to do that is to cut the small one first and then cut the large one without moving the cutter, but I didn't really do it that way since I kind of came about this later. But what I'm going to do is some small little borders that I'll end up with out of these jelly prints. They'll just give it a little bit of extra texture. And you could cut something like this on the silhouette. It doesn't have to be with these special kind of cutters. You're just cutting one circle out of another. And I did 2 of those. And then I'm going to use those as a foundation for my embellishment groups. So we're back to some of the wood pieces. And I've got a lot more, and I've pulled out some down there on the bottom of the page. You'll see those in a moment. I'm also going to stamp some words onto the different, those 2 little wood pieces. And I thought another way to anchor these would be to use some washi tape, because then my jelly print would show through that. I think there's a lot of layers of transparency here. So down on the bottom I have a little camera, a tiny little house, a circle with a heart in it, and my video is going to cut off in a little while and you're not going to get to see quite everything. I ran out, I didn't realize I was running out of space on my camera. Oh, I do want to show you these. These little triangles, I bought these at Hobby Lobby on clearance. I think they're from the jewelry department. I don't know what they're supposed to be for, but I thought they were cute little embellishments, and I just bought them and I didn't realize that they would come in so handy so fast. So here we're going to do a little stamping. I'm just stamping the words on the wood piece, and this is where the video is going to cut out on it. But basically I'm just stamping some words on there. I didn't worry too much about getting them perfectly straight. And there's one I think that says every little moment and the little things, that kind of stuff. And now I've glued some of those down, and I'm just going to show you gluing one of the other groupings down and how I arrange things. And I ended up gluing these mostly with Tombow adhesive, and I'm putting the circles inside of the stamped circles. It wouldn't really have to do that, but that just helped me kind of arrange the things. And since I was already working with the Tombow adhesive, I pretty much used it to glue everything down, including those little triangles. And I just tried to place those so that the 3 of them made a nice little triangular arrangement. I put that one little circular heart inside the camera. I thought that was cute. And then I'm going to need to trim some of that excess off the back. And ideally it needs to dry a little bit more, but I kind of pushed it a bit there. I will be adding journaling because this is rather personal journaling. I have not included it in the video, but it'll be journaling strips. And I say it will be because I'm actually getting your video done here before I get that journaling on there, but I have a pretty good idea what I want to say. There we go. And so here's our page. You can get some close-up views of how all this looks. And I really just started with this one really loud, kind of busy photo, but we've got this sort of fun background that was, you know, a lot of times I use the tissue paper just to pick up what's left on the jelly plate, and it really made a really fun page, or I think it is. So it's one of my favorite pages I've done in quite a while, and it reminds me that my craft room is a place to come to create. It doesn't have to be orderly. It's nice when it is, but it doesn't have to be. And no matter what's going on in the rest of my life, I can come up here and have some fun and do something that I enjoy. So thank you so much for joining me today, and I hope you'll stay tuned. Videos maybe a little more not as frequent, or over the next few days, few weeks. As I say, we got a lot of medical things going on here, so we'll just see. Hopefully I'll still be able to get out a video a week, but I don't know. So if you don't see one every week, just don't worry about it. They'll come back. We're going to be fine here, but and sometimes there's a lot of things going on. So anyway, I appreciate all your thumbs up and all your response to the classes and the sketchbook and all that. That's wonderful. So thank you so much for joining me today.